I'm Bob. I like coffee. I also like to tell stories. So, here at the Bobcast Coffee, it's time for a coffee break. So, take a coffee break with me and pour yourself a cup of your favorite Joe. By the time you're done with your coffee, you'll know something about me you really didn't need to know. But you'll have fun learning it. Just remember, my stories are true for the most part. This episode is brought to you by Scars and Stripes Coffee. Scars and Stripes Coffee is some of the best coffee you are ever going to put into your mouth. I do it quite often. It is veteran run. It supports veterans. It is a fabulous product, and I can't speak high enough of it. Go to www.ss.coffee/Reynolds, REYNOLDS, and check out this marvelous product. That is www.ss.coffee/REYNOLDS. Today I am enjoying my coffee out of a Death Wish coffee mug. Really nice coffee mug. Love the designs. The weight is good and the size is perfect. But I don't have Death Wish in this coffee cup. I have Scars and Stripes because that coffee is just that much better in my humble opinion. So, whatever coffee you're drinking today, enjoy it. It does not hurt to enjoy different flavors. Nice mug. Today we are going to be looking at, what is this going to be? Episode 27. Episode 27 is about Unofficial International Bob Day. Unofficial International Bob Day. Wow. Let's figure this one out. Sometime around 2006, I was sitting at my mini storage manager's desk in Ontario, California, playing an online game called Heroes, which is based off the TV show Heroes. It was a fun game, and it was really mostly text-based. You built up your hero and you sent them into fights with other players and against the computer, things like that. And then the computer would basically tell you what the outcome of that fight was. It was actually a lot of fun for a game that you did not have to sit and watch. So it wasn't like playing a first-person shooter. You just set up the scenario and let it run out. Another aspect of this game was that you built a community from around the world. On our team, we had, for example, we had this young man from Korea, and he seemed to always be playing when I was on. So we teamed up a lot. Now, I played this game for almost a year before I figured out that he was in North Korea, not South Korea. And he was playing on an illegal server. And we figured, actually the whole crew figured it out when he had to go do his mandatory inscription and basically said goodbye, you won't hear from me for a couple of years. Because he was losing access to the illegal server that allowed him to play a worldwide game which is not allowed in North Korea. I hope he's doing well. He was always fun to play with online, so good feelings and prayers for him. Some great temporary styled friends happened, and some that lasted a little bit longer and weren't so temporary. Like, we had this one lady in Georgia. So, as the story goes, to the best of my recollection, several of us on the team had just gotten our collective butts kicked in this online heroes game when I made the comment, well, that was just a great birthday gift, which brought about a bunch of happy birthday messages. Well, that was really nice that all you strangers out there in the world were kind enough to wish someone you had never met a happy birthday. And then this lady from Georgia says, if I had known, I would have baked you some cookies and sent them to you. Well, that got me thinking. And I said, well, go ahead and bake those cookies and then give them to somebody. And just say it's to celebrate someone named Bob who's having a birthday. We all got chuckles out of that. A year goes by, and the heroes game gets discontinued. But not my birthday. It's still rapidly approaching. But this concept of giving away cookies to strangers for my birthday kept coming up in my head. So as the week of my birthday arrived, I told my wife that I would love to make some cookies, a couple of dozen, and then I'd give them away at the office when people came in. She said, of course. I mean, she's a sweetheart. So of course she said, of course, and thought it was a nice idea. Oh, little did she know what she was getting into. My birthday comes, and Bob went to work armed with 3 dozen cookies. Mostly chocolate chip and oatmeal raisin. Now, for the few people that came in to pay a bill or access their unit, it was a wonderful surprise. A year goes by, and this time I want to do at least 5 dozen cookies. See, when you make more cookies for people to eat, more people smile, which in turn makes Bob smile. Year 3 comes around, and I start talking about Cookie Day, and my wife, Linda, starts to figure out this is not a passing fad, and Cookie Day may become something more permanent. So, Unofficial National Bob Day was born. We would then be baking cookies and giving them away every March 19th from then on. For the next year, a friend of Linda's, who lives in England, said she too would bake some cookies and give them away. That year in England, some neighbor who had no idea who Bob was got cookies in honor of Bob's birthday, and Unofficial National Bob Day died. An Unofficial International Bob Day was born. My goal now is to get cookies on as many continents as possible and as soon as possible. It's not an easy task when you really don't know anybody outside the USA. Now, at this time, Linda, Bob, and Josh moved from sunny Southern California to crazy weather Oklahoma. And with us came UIBD. And some very good connections happened. The first Unofficial International Bob Day in Oklahoma was not terribly large. Only about 20 dozen cookies that year. I was, however, managing a new storage facility in Yukon, Oklahoma, so I put my business card on each bag of cookies. My thought was if I gave cookies to strangers, they would know who I was and how to find me. Added benefit, they would also know where to go if they needed storage. And yes, it worked. On both sides. One, nobody questions taking cookies from a stranger. And boy, am I strange. And second, I picked up 2 or 3 customers in the next week alone from the cost of 20 dozen cookies. Yeah, that's not a big money maker if you really want to run the math. If you want to use this as anecdotal proof of concept of networking and direct advertising, go ahead. What I did learn was that using business cards made people comfortable with the gift of cookies. And I could hand out more cookies and make more people happy. From then on, my goal was 30 dozen cookies every year. Simple math. 30 times 12, that's 360 cookies, given out in bags of 6 was 60 bags, minus what we kept out in singles for the office. We could average about 45 bags a year. Well, that was not good enough. One year at the mini storage, I asked my friend John Roper to help. I had this crazy idea to put UIBD cookies on every continent. John, not only being a longtime friend from school, slightly crazy and prone to accepting nutty suggestions, was also a missionary. John had spent time in Africa and Japan. And on top of that, people he met actually liked him. What is that like? With John's help, we now had connections in African Japan and Korea. We also had England, the USA, of course, soldiers in Iraq. We were covering the world well. That year ended up being one of the furthest reaching unofficial International Bob Days we ever had done. And it would be years later when I ran into a lady online that lived in Australia. For at least 1 year, I had Cookie Day there. And then she moved back to America. Now, this year that we did all this wonderful stuff was also the last year we had Cookie Day at the mini storage. The end of our life in storage almost ended Unofficial International Bob Day. Since the beginning of that year, some strange changes were taking place in the mini storage. But Linda and I were rolling with it. 6 months earlier, Linda had quit her job and started managing the facility that we lived at. And I was managing another facility a mile away. So that year, Linda and I were going to personally hit the Yukon, Oklahoma market hard. On March 18th, the night before Cookie Day, and when all the baking magic happens, I was informed by the new mid-management company that the owners had hired that mine and my wife's services were no longer needed by the company. We were no longer employed at the storage facility. On top of that, they graciously gave us 7 days to move out. To say that this was a downer on a UIBD would be an understatement. That whole afternoon, Linda and I were having a pity party with wine and all. We were bitching about the owners of the management company and our owners and the timing. You know, all of this is happening on my 50th birthday. Well, pretty much, we were ready to call Bob Day off. That's when Linda's best friend in California called. Lynn's husband in California was losing his long fight with cancer, and he was expected to pass away that night. After that phone call, the pity party we were having was over. We may not have jobs. We may not have a place to live. But neither one of us were watching a spouse die. Our problems were really small. So what else can we do? The baking began. And it went deep into the night. It ended up for Unofficial International Bob Day, we baked 50 dozen cookies. And we put them in red Solo cups. And we taped a note to explain what we were doing. We sure weren't going to put our business cards on it. So we ended up making the first ever Bob Day explanation notes. And we put one on now every year. So the next morning, we book a flight for Linda to go back to California. I think it was 2 days later. And then Linda and I, with our car full of cookies, drove all over Oklahoma City, Yukon, and El Reno, giving away cookies. It was a wonderful day. Yes, our friend died that night. And Linda went to help her friend, and I got us moved with a lot of help from our friends here in Oklahoma. And life went on. The next few years, the Bob Days were scattered and fun. I worked several jobs. I was a painter. I worked a little bit of construction. I did handyman work. I worked in a newspaper. I did all sorts of different things. But we always had fun on Unofficial International Bob Day. In 2018, we moved to Massachusetts. The move there was to help family. Our son and daughter-in-law up there were having a baby, and we just packed up. We didn't have any real serious jobs here, so we just quit our jobs, packed everything up, moved up there to Massachusetts, and we helped with our granddaughter. But there, I started my career at the TSA. Boy, were they unprepared for a Bob or a Bob Day. Unofficial International Bob Day 2019 included huge bags of cookies that just kept magically showing up in the break room. But I also put together gallon-sized bags of cookies, and I gave them to flight crews. On my break, I would walk up and down the concourse looking for a flight that was about to board. And then I would ask the gate attendant if they would pass on my cookies to the crew. I became very popular with the JetBlue crews. That is, until I had but one bag left. I walked up to one of the furthest gates from the checkpoint, and I asked the gate attendant if she would pass on some cookies and smiles. And she looked at me and said, no. I just looked at her. In 15 plus years, no one has ever said no to cookies. She then got real loud and told me, and everyone that was near, how she didn't know me or what I put into those cookies, and there was no way she was going to give potentially dangerous cookies to the crew. I said, okay, and I left. But that wasn't good enough for her. She kept up the attack on cookies and the madman who thought he could give them to just anybody. Now understand, I am standing there in my uniform, my TSA uniform, on my break. I'm not wearing a mask and I'm not putting a gun to her head. No was sufficient. She finally settled down when I was about 2 gates away from her. But that did not stop everyone from staring at me. Then I hear from the gate right next to me, "Hey, are you Bob the Cookie Man?" I looked at the smiling faces in front of me, and then I looked back at the crazy conspiracy lady, and she looked at me. I smiled at her, and then I turned and looked at the waving friendly faces that were trying to keep my attention, and I said in a clear, loud, Radio Man Bob voice, "Why, yes, yes I am." And they said, "Our crew just boarded. Can we get some cookies for them?" My reply, I have only one bag left. Please wish them a very happy unofficial International Bob Day for me. I could not have written this script any better than how it actually happened. Now, I don't believe that everyone who has ever eaten an unofficial International Bob Day cookie has gone on to bake and give away cookies year after year. But that is my dream. See, maybe one day during a war, the soldiers will put down their weapons and spend March 19th trading cookies. Now, if the story of Unofficial International Bob Day ever gets made into a movie, that scene, whether it be true or not, better be in it. Now, this story that I'm telling you today does not have an end because Unofficial International Bob Day is still going on. So, in fact, I'm recording this a week before March 19th. So, this coming March 19th, we will be having another UIBD Day. So, on March 19th, take cookies you make or that you buy and then give them away just to make people smile. Who knows whose life you can change? Every smile we bring into this world makes this world just a little bit better of a place. Now, if you want to find out more about Unofficial International Bob Day, you can look up on Facebook the Unofficial International Bob Day page. You can see photos and you can see videos. Then you can take pictures of cookies baking and cookies eating and send them in. I would love to see them. Now, I'll put a link down in the description. But if you just look up Unofficial International Bob Day, you'll find me real easy on Facebook. Now, I'm going to sign off today by saying, do you know what goes really good with cookies? Coffee goes really good with cookies. I'll have a link down in the description for Scars and Stripes. But if you're enjoying a cup of joe, life is good too. Have a wonderful unofficial International Bob Day. And enjoy your coffee.